I want to talk about the cost of living and how everybody is struggling in America.
Iowans are paying the price for another reckless war in the Middle East.
The U.S. is not everything that they are telling you that it is. I'm just going to be straight up and...
So my question is, how much money do I actually need to make and able to come...
What's up, America? I want to talk about the cost of living and how everybody is struggling in America. Now, I know we all keep waking up every day and we all try to make ends meet and we try as hard as we can. Because if we don't, we're gonna fail. We have a family. We have to survive, right? If you haven't noticed, it's getting harder and harder to live every single day. Month over month, the costs are going up. It doesn't matter if it's utilities or water or food or gas. Somehow, some way, no matter the season, they find a way to fuck you. Corporations raise prices, they price gouge you on purpose seasonally, and we're falling for this shit because we don't have any choice. Well, I want to have a choice. I want it to go back the way it was before they were fucking us worse than ever in history financially. I don't mind making money, I don't mind making profit, but you're making obscene amounts of profit simply because you hate your customers. You even mock them the fact that you're taking advantage of them. And in many cases, you're getting the money, but you simply don't deserve it. You're not providing a service where it's worth it. Even shit like arcades and mini golf and fucking mountain coasters have doubled or tripled in prices. And it's the same shit. It's not like it's any extra cost. You're just fucking people for fun. Like I said, I don't mind making money and I don't even mind making a good amount of profit, but you can't fuck everybody constantly.
You know, I find it very interesting. I keep on seeing videos from other countries of people realizing how horrible the living conditions for Americans are. How healthcare is so ass backwards that you can pay $10,000 a year for healthcare and they still refuse to have surgeries that are life-saving. They reject them. That sometimes, if you have insurance, you're paying more than if you didn't have insurance. That you are not guaranteed time away. I saw this one creator say from Australia, they get 4 weeks a year. 4! You know how much corporations have to give people in America? 0. Nothing. They don't have to give you anything. If you're sick too long, they can just fire you. And of course, they're stripping away social safety nets. And even if you do get approved for these social safety nets, if you make $1 more than they allow, they will kick you off. $1 more. That's it. So it doesn't incentivize people to get off these programs, to try and work for a better life, because if they try, they're taking 2 steps back. So welcome to America. Hope you have some money, because if you don't, you'll probably die.
So my question is, how much money do I actually need to make and able to comfortably live in California? I'm not married and I don't have any kids, okay? It's just me, myself, and I. I do like nice things, okay? So, how much money do I need to make and able to comfortably live in California?
So look, I've lived in California my entire life and I'm 61 years old. And living comfortably in California relies heavily on 3 things: location, lifestyle, and household size. Because here's the thing, if you're talking about the large metropolitan areas like San Francisco Bay Area, Los Angeles, or San Diego, the costs vary dramatically. And then the other factor is, what do you consider a comfortable lifestyle? Because for me, how I define a comfortable lifestyle is, number one, you have an income that can cover all of your basic needs like rent, food, utilities, etc. You can pay for your car, you can pay for the gas easily, and then you also have a savings in case of an emergency. And then you have discretionary funds so that you can have a life outside of work, you know, entertainment, traveling if you want to. Do you rent or do you own? Because if you rent, your income has to be able to cover any rent increases every year in California. If you own, can you afford the property taxes that might go up? But that's my definition, right? Somebody else's definition might be, oh, I just want to be able to cover all my bills and have a small savings and I'm good. I don't really like traveling. That's not my lifestyle. But in a nutshell, yes, it is more expensive to live in California, but the earnings are higher in California. So it's all relative. I was born in Northern California. I now live in Southern California. This is where I retired. And I will say that there are still affordable areas in California. But if you live in Northern California, affordable is not San Francisco Bay Area. Okay, it might be Sacramento or somewhere in that area. If you're in Southern California, it's not going to be San Diego or LA, Orange County. It might be the Inland Empire. But in any event, it's really going to depend on your income because at the end of the day, money talks, baby. Money talks. All right, love you. Bye.
My mortgage on my starter home is $4,845 every single month here in Columbus, Ohio. And one of the things that I think is so frustrating for me is when I talk to people who bought homes in 2015, 2014, or people who are older than me, I'm 28, or people who are in their late 30s, early 40s. And it's just you guys really don't understand how unaffordable housing has become. My house years before I bought it was a $300,000 house, and it still is a $300,000 house because there were no updates made to the home whatsoever. It had all of the original things in it, and it was so outdated. And it's just one of the things that I feel is really frustrating for me to look around and see. I have an income where my base salary is well over $300,000 annually, and still having a $5,000 mortgage every single month is insane. It is so much freaking money. I don't know how people my age, I don't know how this generation is going to be able to save because childcare and food and gas and everything and electricity, everything is so expensive right now. So how are you even supposed to save to get the down payment? But even if you get the down payment, how who can afford these mortgage prices? I understand that I am in a unique position, but that's not the norm. How are normal American families able to afford housing? How something has to change. And it's one of the things that I think about constantly, and it really stresses me out. It stresses me out for my friends, it stresses me out for my children. It's just so sad because being able to afford a home and be a homeowner and start a family and do all of that and have your own space is so important. It's a part of the American dream, and it's quickly becoming a thing of the past. Everyone is going to be stuck renting if things don't fix.
The financial cost of healthcare in the United States is reaching a breaking point, according to a new poll by Gallup, which demonstrated that nearly 1/3 of Americans, approximately 82 million people, are making financial sacrifices like eating less or driving less in order to afford the cost of their medical care. This study, which surveyed approximately 20,000 Americans, found that about 15% of U.S. adults prolong current medication use in order to afford subsequent care. About 15% of U.S. adults borrowed money, and 11% of adults skipped a meal in order to afford their health care. Now, if we look at the data, these trade-offs, right, people who are having to choose between healthcare and food are far more common for households that are of lesser socioeconomic status. So, for example, 55% of households making less than $24,000 a year have to choose between these different trade-offs. This contrasts with households making $240,000 a year or more, where only 11% of those households have to make those trade-offs. Similarly, those individuals who report poor or fair health are much more likely to have to make these sorts of trade-offs, and this makes sense given the fact that they have more exposure to the healthcare system and having to pay for healthcare. And what's interesting about this survey, as someone who studies healthcare systems and the healthcare systems in the United States, is that these financial trade-offs are far more common for individuals who do not have health insurance, right? According to this survey, 62% of those surveyed who did not have health insurance had to make one or more of these trade-offs. This compares to almost 29% of individuals who do have health insurance that had to make these trade-offs, right? And this is interesting when we take this survey, right, which finds that people who are uninsured have to make more financial sacrifices in order to afford healthcare, and we juxtapose that that with the policies and provisions that have been passed, right, in the last year or haven't been passed, like the extensions to the Affordable Care Act enhanced subsidies, right, by this administration and Congress, which threaten the affordability and the accessibility of health insurance for millions of Americans. In fact, it is estimated that nearly 16 million people will lose their health insurance coverage by 2034 because of these provisions passed in the One Big Beautiful Bill. And because of this, you have people which, according to this survey, are also postponing life events like having or adopting a child, like pursuing additional education, like buying a new home, postponing these big life events because they have this high amount of medical cost. And look, I am not blaming individuals for making personal decisions about choosing things like food, electricity, and rent over the cost of health insurance, right? That is such a horrible decision to have to make. So I don't blame individuals for making choices for themselves. I also have a lot of thoughts about healthcare providers encouraging people to forego insurance like I've seen on this app, which maybe I'll talk about in another video. However, as someone who studies systemic issues resulting from our healthcare system here in the United States, I am very concerned about people's financial well-being in response to maybe one random medical event that they could not have predicted and the subsequent backlash from that, particularly those who have to make the choice to forego health insurance. Coming from someone who grew up when the Affordable Care Act was passed, which by no means was a perfect bill, going from that where we cut the uninsurance rate in half to this current system where millions of people are losing their health insurance and going into substantial medical debt, specifically because of that decision, due to the fact that we have made healthcare and health insurance in this country so expensive, it's just so incredibly disturbing. Unfortunately, there doesn't seem to be any effort by this current Congress or this current administration to increase access and affordability of healthcare towards the majority of Americans. And it's frankly really sad for me to, I guess, come to terms with. But for now, that's all I got. And as always,
so a lot of you have been asking me, what is it like to live in the US? So I'm going to do a series of videos where I talk about this because the US is not everything that they are telling you that it is. I'm just going to be straight up and honest from the beginning. It's not all what they're saying. So it's not all bad either, but I'll start with the cost of living because I feel like that's a really big topic. If you live in the United States, I don't actually care where you live. You're probably not going to be able to go buy lunch anywhere for less than $10, which is like 100 Rand. Like, you're just not going to be able to. When I was living in the United States, cost of living was literally so high. For example, you have a child. You need to send that child to daycare. Daycare that we were sending our son to, where he would actually learn the alphabet, like letters, numbers, that kind of thing, was about $1,300 a month. That's about 25,000 Rand a month. And I know you're thinking, oh, but you're probably getting paid so much more money. The average pay for someone living in the United States is, they say it's about $59,000 a year, which puts you at just under like $5,000 a month. I'm suspect of that number, very suspect of that number, because this is the thing. Also, when you live in the northern part of the United States or cities where it just costs more, you get paid more. So they're also like averaging those numbers in. So like if you live in New York or you live in California, you are going to get paid more money to live there, but it's also going to cost a lot more money to live there. So again, if you're looking at getting like an apartment in like Tampa, the rent was like $2,000. So you just took that $5,000, just under $5,000 that you had a month. Take $2,000 of that away because you need a place to live. And this is without paying for water, paying for electricity, anything. So you're now down to $3,000. Take another $1,300 of that and put it towards daycare because you have a child. And that's per child, not like couple, per child. So don't mess around and have children back to back, or that's going to be a problem. So now you're down to about $1,700 if you've only put one child in daycare. If you put two children into daycare, baby, you only have $200 left. And I already told you it's going to cost you about $10 a day just to get lunch. So you can't even buy lunch every day for the rest of the month if you put two children in daycare and you're making $5,000 a month. So let's say you only put that one child in daycare and you do still have $1,700 left. Well, now you have a car payment, and that car payment is about $300. And so now you're down to what, $1,400? And I know I'm saying 1,400, but y'all don't talk like that. But so now you have about $1,400. And after that $1,400, are you going to go buy food for groceries so you can make dinner at night? Because that's going to cost you about $100 a week, at least, at the very least, for a family of 4. And so really it's like 150. So let's do real math. So 150 times 4, what are we at? $600 a month for groceries? Yeah, because 300 and 300. So we had $600 a month for groceries. So take another $600 off of that $1,400. Let's do some math. So after $2,000 a month for the apartment, after another $1,300 a month for putting one child in daycare while you go to work to try to make money, after $600 in groceries, and after $300 for car payment and car insurance, you now have $800. $800, and you ain't even done nothing that brings you joy yet. Because after you have that $800 left, you now still need to pay for your electricity bill, which is going to be about $200 a month. So now we're down to $600. And you need to pay for water, which is going to be about another $100 a month. So now you're down to $500. You have not got your hair done, because if you get braids like this, baby, that's another $300-400. If you get your lashes done, that's another $200. If you get your nails done, that's another $150. Like, y'all, you see how everybody's in the negative already? The negative. So I would say living in the States is extremely, extremely expensive, for one. And again, you still haven't bought a lot of things like this makeup that I'm putting on. You don't have it yet. You don't have it. You want to have internet? That's another $70 a month so that you can, be online doing things. You need a phone? That's another $100 a month that you're paying for this phone bill and this phone. How much do we have, you guys? I think we just took off $100 for the phone. We took off $70 for the internet. We was at like $500. I don't know. You see, the money is gone. It's literally gone. So when they say like, oh, you have so much money living in the States, the cost of living is so much higher. You know that car that you have that you're making car payments on, $300 a month? You also got to put gas in that car. And it's probably going to cost you about $50 a week. And guess what? That's another $200 a month. And you probably don't have it. So you're probably putting it on a credit card. So now you also have a credit card bill that you're trying to pay every month with interest. And I want you to remember, this is how much the people are making that are making the average amount of money, which most people aren't making this average amount of money that they're saying that people are actually making. But if they are, they're probably only making it because they have a college degree, which means they probably also have thousands of dollars worth of student loan debt. So that's another debt that they're paying every month. But again, most people aren't making this much money. And the people that aren't making this much money are probably making like $30,000 to like maybe $40,000 a year. And they still have these same bills, but no money to pay them. I'm saying all this to say, cost of living is disrespectful everywhere. Do you need to go to the doctor? Because you're gonna have a copay on top of the insurance that you've been paying every month. And your insurance that you're paying every month is probably, I don't know, another $100, $200. Oh yeah, because of taxes, I said you get like $60K a year, but you only take home about $40,000 to $45K a year. So you're actually only gonna get to have about $3,700 to $3,800 a month. So surprise, you've been broke.
So the biggest lie told to man is that you can find a luxury apartment in Houston for $1,300 a month. That is so capped. The inner loop in Houston is a bit more expensive. The average one bedroom in the inner loop, if you want something that's actually nice, is about $1,500. And for a 2-bedroom, it'll be around $1,900. Now, you can find luxury or nice apartments in the $1,300 range, but they'll be on the outskirts of Houston. So that's like Katy, the Woodlands, Cypress, Spring. Those are all like northwest Houston pretty much. Those 1-bedrooms range around like maybe $1,300, like $1,370, and their 2-bedrooms are around $1,600. Now, in the south side of Houston, or the outskirts, that's where you find like Pearland, Missouri City, the Galleria area, Richmond, Sugarland. Those 1-beds range around like $1,300, closer to 14, so we'll say like 1370, and then the nice 2 bedrooms start at about like 1700. If you don't know who I am, my name is Chastity. I do not only locate for Houston, I locate for all over Texas, and I can give you a price breakdown for any area in Texas if you would like to know about Dallas, Austin, San Antonio. Leave it in the comments and I'll make a video on that. And if you're looking to move within the next 60 days, you can click the link in my bio, send in a consultation form, and I can send you a list of properties just like that. So here's the price breakdown. Now, the best parts of Houston to move in within the inner loop will be like downtown, midtown, Montrose, Heights. Then North Houston, it's going to be Katy and the Woodlands, hands down. South Houston, I love Missouri City. Richmond is nice, Sugarland is nice, and Pearland is nice.
So I saw this guy talk about like the cost of living and how he just can't afford to live, and I feel like I need to talk about like how bad I think it's gotten in the US, because I think it's gotten really, really bad. Like, we know it's bad, but it's bad. So 5 years ago in 2020, I graduated from college and I had a job offer within like 3-4 weeks after graduating college. And I moved to downtown Dallas at the time, and I lived in a studio apartment, and I believe it was like $905 a month. Had a view of downtown. It wasn't in the best part. Botman Jean unfortunately did get murdered there, but it was a really affordable apartment, and I made about $40,000 a year, so I could afford it, and it was great. I went and I looked back, and the studios that I lived in are now almost double what I paid, which is insane to me. Also, when I was in college, I always got groceries at Aldi's, and I could get meat and everything I needed for 1 week for one person. It was about 45 to 50 US dollars. I went to Aldi's a couple days ago, bought groceries for me and my partner, and excluding meat, because I buy my meat from a local farm, so just getting like fruits, vegetables, and like crackers. We don't really get snacks, and like grains and stuff like that. It ended up being about $100. Obviously, I spent the majority of my 20s living in the EU, and I've only lived back in the US for 1 year, but I can just say that I think it's gotten extremely expensive. 40K a year would have been a really, really good salary 5 years ago, in a low cost of living area, but it's not. I bought my house last July, and if I were to buy my house again, for example, I could not afford it. They built an apartment complex that you can rent right next to my building. I Googled how much people are paying to rent in these apartments, similar floorage. Honestly, part of it's a basement unit, and it is about like $500 to $600 more than my mortgage. They're also building $1 million townhouses 2 blocks away from the street that I live in. I literally could not afford, aside from like losing my job and all those other variables, I literally could not afford to buy my house again. And if it wasn't for the property taxes that I don't pay property taxes, I would not be able to own a house. But yeah, it's really, really jarring to see how expensive it's gotten, and how devastating it is. And I'm always really grateful I don't have kids, because imagine you're a family of 4 and you have to feed 4 people and you don't make even $100,000 a year. Like, it is insane. And then housing is $2,500. I went looking because I wanted to move to a different part of the city, rent out my condo, and then rent some part in the city, thinking it might be cheaper. I toured a bunch of apartments. You are getting less space. You're getting you're paying $2,500, maybe $2,800 for a studio in Philadelphia. Obviously, if you're from New York, it's not that bad, but it's pretty expensive for locals here, especially given the median wage is not that high. It's insane. It's extremely expensive. If you are feeling the pressure and the heat of the rising cost of living, you're not alone. Even high earners are coming out and saying it's extremely expensive. Money is not going as far as it used to.
One of the world's most important shipping lanes has been cut off. Iran is vowing to attack any ship trying to pass through the Strait of Hormuz. It is also targeting energy sites.
This is where the USA gets 20% of their oil. This means gas prices will go up, as well as food, toiletries, and pretty much anything that is delivered to a store. That's per the usual anytime gas goes up.
This is not an exaggeration. Every $500 that I make, I spend $2,000. Like every large sum of money that I make, I spend double that, if not even more. And it's not because I want to be. It's because everything just is like, it's just bill, 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 bill. Everything's more expensive, but the quality of everything's going, fucking take it back. When will this end?
Iowans are paying the price for another reckless war in the Middle East. Gas is up over 50 cents a gallon. Diesel is even more expensive, which means everything that gets carried on a truck is going to be more expensive, especially groceries. The Middle East is also a big supplier of fertilizer, which is now getting more expensive right now before spring planting. Iowa families needed relief from high prices, but Zach Nunn voted to give the Trump administration a blank check to go to war.
Y'all, I just left Walmart. I want to cry. I want to cry. As a single parent of 3, holy shit. Mind you, that's just essentials. That's not even like full-blown grocery shopping. I just did my car registration inspection, got tires. How are we supposed to survive? $898 later and some change. Not including everything that was just paid for the first of the month. The cost of living has gotten out of hand. It's ridiculous. It's ghetto. I'm tired.
Here is a rough breakdown of the monthly expenses it takes to live here in Florida. So for me and my husband and our 2 children, one is 2 and we have a baby, this would be our breakdown of our expenses. So our mortgage payment is around $1,500. Now that is off of a house that we bought in 2017, and that is a semi-large 2-1. And then you have our 2 car payments, 2 car insurances, and gas for both vehicles. And that comes to be about $2,100 a month. On top of that, you have our Duke Energy bill. If I had to average it out, because it's Florida, that's a bit complicated. I would say on average $250 to $275. Water and trash is about $120. Our phone bills is about $120. TV and internet about $200, and then health insurance about $700, and then you add in groceries and expenses. Now, of course, we have expenses for a baby and a 2-year-old, so that can be a bit high. And that added in with groceries, and that's like semi-clean eating, not like super clean, but some stuff organic, some stuff not. That comes to about, I'd say, $1,600 a month. And now, just like everyone else, you're probably gonna have or want some money for eating out occasionally, or some type of entertainment, or just expenses that come up in general. So I would throw in like another couple $100 to that. And all of that together averaged about $7,000 a month, which meant that you would have to net, not gross, but net $84,000. And I'm not over here complaining necessarily, but one thing that is just a bit concerning, and I'm sure this concerns a lot of people, especially living here in Florida, is the cost keeps increasing. So every month, well, I should say every year, the cost of my house and our mortgage payment or monthly payment has increased. So then you have an additional fee, an additional amount you have to pay every single month. On average, for us at least, it's about every year we have to pay $100 more per month. And then on top of that, the same goes for car insurance nowadays. It's like every year it's just increasing. When is it gonna stop?
There is no reward for hardworking people anymore. My husband.
So please go watch her video before you watch mine. This is exactly how I feel right now. I make $19 an hour, and I work in the healthcare field. And making $19 an hour working in the healthcare field, I still cannot afford childcare for my 2 kids. And not only that, but because of the pandemic, a lot of childcare facilities closed down. And the ones that were staying open, most of them were only able to stay open because of the government helping them with extra money because of what COVID did to all of them. But that program, that extra money, ended months ago. So now even more childcare places are now closing. So the very few ones that are staying open are charging astronomical fees. In my area, for one kid for full-time care is $940 a month. And I live in Central Florida. Not Orlando, north of Orlando, but Central Florida area. But yeah, $19 an hour. I work in the healthcare field. I have so many different certificates in the healthcare field, and we still cannot afford childcare. And we also still cannot afford a home. We're struggling just to afford groceries, and we're living with family because we can't afford our own place. And I work full-time, making $19 an hour. The American dream is dead.
All right, TikTok, I need your help. I am seriously considering getting rid of my health insurance. I pay $1,300 a month for me, my wife, and kids. And if only it was good insurance, like that's actually like bottom of the barrel insurance that barely covers anything. Because every single time my wife or my kids have a doctor's appointment, I still get some bill. And the crazy part is I'll get the insurance document that says, oh, $5 million worth of charges were processed. We paid $4,999,000 and you still owe us $100. Like it's insane. I'm fortunate enough to be in a position where I can afford it, but I don't know how many Americans actually can. Like this is out of control. And I'm convinced that it's bullshit. And I'm convinced that if I didn't have insurance, the prices the hospitals and the doctors' offices would give me would be significantly less because they'd rather get something than nothing at all. Right? If I wanted insurance that covers everything, I'd have to be looking at $3,000 a month. On what fucking planet?
How much does it cost to live comfortably in the fourth largest city in America? You want to guess? I'm trusting you. Put your guesses in the comments. We'll see if you're right. Okay. You got it? A new report says it costs $75,088 to live comfortably in the city of Houston. Hey there, I'm Brandy. I'm a reporter in Houston, and here's what we know. Houston is actually the most affordable city of the 99 Smart Asset evaluated. Check it out. For a single adult, you need to make $36.10 an hour to live comfortably, or $175,219 for two working adults with two kids. Texas had a lot of the most affordable cities in the top 10, including El Paso, Lubbock, and Laredo. You're probably wondering how this is calculated. Smart Asset looked at it based on the 50-30-20 budget. So 50% is your needs. Think house, food, car. 30% is wants, all the fun things that you want to do. And 20% is savings or paying off debt. And in a surprise to absolutely no one, the other end of the list is topped by New York City, where you would have to make $66.62 an hour, which translates into an annual salary of $136,739 in a year to live comfortably. The rest of the list is dominated by California. You've got San Jose, Irvine, Santa Ana, Boston, San Diego, Chula Vista, and San Francisco, bloop, Seattle, and then Oakland.